All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. We are going to be talking about our chapter recognition awards. That entails our performance standard seal and our outstanding awards. Myself, Jennifer Steffen, the chapter relations manager, Alyssa Ellington, our ambassador in Area 8, and Amber, our ambassador in Area 4, will be presenting this with me. So let's go ahead and get started. I do encourage you all to put any questions that you have in chat, and we'll get to those as we go along. So what we are going to talk about today is I will acknowledge those who participated in the program last year. We'll talk about the purpose of both of these programs, how to fill out that performance standard seal, how to submit for the outstanding award, and then some tips from our judges, what they're looking for when you submit that application. So first, let's look at acknowledging all of those chapters that earned their seals last year. I will say it was our record year of the amount of chapters that participated in this, and it was really exciting to see several chapters, you know who you are, I'm not going to call you out by name, that applied for the first time and got that bronze chapter. So kudos to you all, especially chapters that thought they could not earn a seal, but they did. So we're very excited to have the majority of our chapters participating, and many of our chapters moving up a seal. That is something that can definitely happen. So something to aim for each year when you complete this is to kind of move in one category to the other. So congratulations to all of those who earned those seals last year. For our outstanding chapter awards, we had the chapters on the right are all the chapters that submitted an outstanding application. And then on the left are, of course, are those that won and were acknowledged at Forum last year. We did not give out one of our awards, and that was the membership award, but a round of applause to Oklahoma, Central Florida, and Rocky Mountain for having outstanding submissions in their categories. So let's talk about the two types of awards that we're going to go into detail about, kind of an overview of what they are. First is that chapter performance standard seal. This really is a standard that we have on one of our chapters to strive for. This is where you just saw visually, you award that digital seal, either bronze, silver, gold, or platinum. And this is really an opportunity for you to recognize what your chapter does, your best practices. This really is structured so that there is not a bias regardless of your size. We had small chapters winning a bronze and extra large chapters in the low category. So it really doesn't depend on your size and what you earn. But this is a great way to have a visual for your chapter to show that you have this stamp from NIGP that you've earned a base level of recognition for your performance. The other one is the Outstanding Awards, and this is where it's recognizing outstanding in specific categories. Those are that membership, advocacy and outreach, operations, and professional development. These are awards given out at our annual forum up on the stage with our big pop-up. And this really focuses on specific practices that you do in those areas, and a program that you do, and showing how you went through the paces to do a certain program and how somebody could possibly replicate that program. This is what we're always trying to strive for, is to help each other and show what's worked and not worked. So a chapter can look at that and pick some ideas from that. So that's really what our Outstanding Award is. So why participate? I think one, as I said before, this is a great way for your chapter to be recognized. It's a great recruitment tool to say that you've earned a seal or that you've won or been a finalist in an outstanding award, that you have excellent programs at your chapter, and very easy for you then to promote your chapter in general and get you that kind of respect and kind of those kudos for doing something really outstanding. We've really worked hard over the last couple of years to make these applications easier for you all to complete. We know that You have a lot of things on your plate as volunteers, and the last thing we want to do is to make a program like this more difficult or more cumbersome to participate. So we really wanted to make sure that we made this easy for everybody to participate in. And we're continually adding your best practices into our resource library. So next, we're going to actually go into the details of the Performance Standards Seal. And Amber, I'm going to have you talk about that.
Absolutely. So just to start out, make sure that you have turned in all of your required NIGP forms. So the ones that are currently due or were due probably in January, February, Jen, were the member data and the chapter leader form.
Yep.
So make sure don't go through this process and until you've done, you've made sure that those are done, because the seals are, you're not going to be eligible for a seal or an award unless those reports are completed. And the one important thing to keep in mind is that you are looking at your activities in 2024. So as a board, sit down and look at those really cool things that you did that are new to your chapter or different for your chapter in 2024. And the performance seal, the next slide has a kind of shows you the top piece of it. Don't be overwhelmed when you pull the seal spreadsheet. A lot of these are yes or no questions. So there's 46 yes or no questions, and a lot of them are pretty simple. And if quick plug for Club Express, but if you have the Club Express website, some of these are automatic yeses, depending on how you set that website up for your chapter, such as, does your chapter's website offer a job posting portal? It's something that Club Express does offer. Or does it offer an online member directory? Yes or no? So which Club Express does. So anyways, some of these are just very easy, quick yes or no's. There are some questions that will require a numeric response, but again, don't get overwhelmed because NIGP will provide you with that information. So on the right, we can provide you with, attendance to VCon, to forum, I'm sorry, conferences, things like that. So, so this is not meant to be a big, heavy lift or a big, heavy burden for you or your chapter.
So Amber, this I'll follow up with those on that kind of square on the right. I'm compiling all that information. So after this, as you guys pull that seal application off the website and start looking through that over the next weeks, please don't hesitate to email me, and I will have all of this. It will be in one Excel spreadsheet with multiple tabs along the bottom, or tables. That will have each of these things by state. So you'll be able to look at those numbers. And again, this really helps the ease of answering some of those questions, is that I can provide that data for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the next slide, Jen, just shows kind of some little screenshots, right, of the spreadsheet. So like I said, in the response column, you're going to put either yes or no to the question, or if it requires a number, there will be a space for that. And then that far right column gives you notes. So just things to be thinking about as you consider that question.
And I'll go even further, Amber, is when you click in these fields where the number is, where your response column is, it actually will tell you yes or no. It's pre-slotted for you to select that. So there won't be any question if you're to put a number, whether you're to put a percentage in. That is all decided for you with you just putting information in. Tony, you had a quick question.
Yes, quick question. Hello, everyone. Can we get last year's? Because I don't have last year's. I'm kind of new. I know Rose is kind of new. So
Yep.
It would be great to see from a standpoint of what we didn't do. Maybe we didn't do it this year again, but then maybe next year we can work towards that. So I would like to kind of see what happened last year. Thank you.
Absolutely. I made note of that. If anybody else is interested, because they're new to their board or don't have copies of what was submitted, either for your outstanding or your performance seal, let me know, shoot me an email and I'll email those over to you.
And then for this slide, again, don't get overwhelmed. So, we just want to be transparent in how this is scored. So for those, I think there was 46 of them. There's 46 questions that are yes or no. If you answer yes, you get 1 point. No is 0 points. For the other questions that require a numeric response, NIGP compiles those and puts them into quartiles, right? So the lowest quartile, the 25th percentile or lower is going to get 1 point for those numbers, and then 25 to 50 gets 2 points, and so on, right? So just kind of wanting to be transparent in how the points are accumulated and calculated there. And for the seals, 54 to 40 points is bronze, and so on. So you see the breakouts there. 55 to 65 is silver, and upwards from there, gold and platinum.
And Amber, I will just add to those quartiles some questions that have come up in the past about, this means that as a small chapter and a large chapter, our numbers are compiled together, and won't that large chapter have more of an advantage? And ironically, it does not. It really does balance out using the quartiles so that it is not the extra large or larger you think are going to get all the 4 points for those numeric. I've actually mapped it 2 years in a row to show that that really is not the case. It does do an excellent balancing out. So there is not a favoritism in this scoring for the size of your chapter at all. But thanks, Anchor, for that. All right. Do we have any questions on the performance seal? It's very kind of self-explanatory. It's yes or no numbers. I saw in there, we didn't say it, but was on the slide. I do have the right to audit that. We don't require any documentation to prove any of the information you're giving. And I will tell you that on occasion I have audited. It really is for numeric numbers that seem off. If you submitted something on the member data form and then there was something so drastically different here, I may ask just what is the correct number on one or the other. So it's those kind of audit things I've done. I also audit if you leave one blank, I give you the opportunity, hey, you left line number 11 blank. Are you sure you don't have any data for that, or a yes or a no? So that's the type of auditing that I talk about when we do the seals. So with that, if we don't have any questions, and again, we'll still take them at the end if you come up with anything afterwards, let's go to the outstanding awards, and Alyssa will talk about those.
Right. So if you want to take it to the next level, you've put your seal together and you realized, oh my gosh, I did some really awesome stuff this year and want to shout it out loud, right? Then we recommend putting in for the chapter outstanding awards. And I always like to think of it like if you're not really sure what to focus on that, I like to think of the whole year and what were those top things that you did this last year, and then start from there and see, okay, now what category does that fit in? So these are the categories here. I really think that's the best way to approach it. So say you just had an amazing I don't know, an amazing Pro D program last year, and you have all these things that you want to talk about on that. Then you would go to that category here. So as you can see, I'm just going to kind of highlight these. So these are the 4 categories you can submit in. So first off, chapter operations. So this is just as it sounds, it's really looking at your operating processes, policies, budget, recognition of agencies and individuals, and also involvement in NIGP. So those types of things fall under operations. Then there's advocacy and outreach, and that's going to be best practices and operations that have been demonstrated to be an effective advocate for your members or our profession as a whole. Then we've got membership, which is just as it sounds, this is really focused on your member benefits. What do you guys offer in your chapter for your members? What about retention and growth? And then lastly, professional development. So your educational programming and other opportunities in your membership. So those are the 4 categories that you have available to submit on.
And Alyssa, I just will add one thing to this. You know, there's a lot of times where you may, as a chapter, think an event is not outstanding because we do it every year. We have this fall conference and it's just something we do. But it may be outstanding because it's new to somebody else or they've never seen an event put on like that. So really kind of take off that hat sometimes and think, but we always do this. This is just standard for us. It may not be standard for another chapter, and really show and highlight something that your chapter does that others don't do. So don't always think about it as just because you did something new this year. It could be something you do continuously. You just need to highlight the event that happened in 2024, but it could be an ongoing program. You're just going to talk about what happened within that program in 2024 as well.
I would even add on the flip side, Jen, if it's something that you feel like everyone does, but you've never done it. Sometimes I feel like we've fallen in that category at my chapter. Like, I don't know, for example, we've never hosted a conference. If we decided to do that next year, that might be our huge undertaking for the year. So we might want to highlight that because that's new and cool to us. So you could look at it both ways. Okay, so a little bit more on the award criteria. So again, this is kind of that next level. So you can apply for your seal, and in order to apply for an outstanding award, you actually have to do the seal to apply. So make sure you do the seal first, and then put together your outstanding awards packet. Remember, this is really important. Make sure that everything that you're highlighting in your packet is based on 2024. I've been on the evaluation team a few years now, and that's one thing that people sometimes get docked on is you're maybe focusing just on like a program you do in general. But there's no information telling us that like happened last year. It needs to be specific to 2024. So really make sure that's obvious in your application. Some new things to point out this year, kind of exciting. So you can actually submit in all 4 categories this year. Previously, it was just 2. And so you have the chance to highlight 4 different programs there. Just as in the past, they do need to be in separate submissions, but pretty exciting though. You can submit in all 4. And then again, it just needs to be a PDF document. I think this was the same last year, no longer than 4 to 5 pages. We kind of left that open because we understand sometimes the 4 pages trails a little bit into 5. So that's fine, but make sure you use the application that is provided by NIGP. And then the submission must follow and answer all the scoring criteria, which we're going to look at here. And then another thing I want to stress is to highlight only 1 or 2 programs, and which really in 4 to 5 pages, that's really all you should be able to fit in there anyway. But make sure you're just really focusing on, like I said, a couple of slides ago, what is the thing that stood out last year for your chapter? Just focus on that and not too many things at once. And then you can it's probably mostly going to be text, but you can add in some photos, links, or embedded documents if that helps support the information that you have in there. And then one last thing I did want to point out here is you can be a finalist in multiple categories, but we've decided this year that you can only win in 1. So just keep that in mind. Feel free to submit in multiple categories, but in the end, you might only win out of 1 category.
And Alyssa, just one other thing to add to that submitting in 4 categories. It needs to be 4 different applications and programs. So if you did a successful conference, you can't put it in education and advocacy. You need to either pick one or the other category. So you can't submit the same application in multiple categories.
All right, so this is the scoring, and this probably looks similar to an RFP maybe to some of you here. So it's kind of a similar format. You've got criteria, and then here's our scoring rubric. So basically just make sure And this is exactly what we, sorry, just to take a step back, this is exactly what we are looking at too when we're evaluating. So we're looking at, okay, was it really explained in detail? So again, like Jen said, so another chapter could understand it or replicate it. So just keep that in mind when you're filling it out. That's the whole point of this, is we're trying to share really great practices with other chapters. So explain it so that they can replicate it. Are their outcomes or results clearly defined? If you have proof of success, explain that. Then there's a criteria on differentials. So really what makes your program different? And it could just be different to you, or different in general. Maybe you don't know of other chapters doing this kind of thing. And then the last criteria is lessons learned, again, so others attempting can adapt to it or replicate it. And then our scoring system is 0 to 10. And basically each section you get up to 10 points. So you can kind of see how that's broken down here. Yeah, it kind of explains itself. So
And if you leave it blank, you get a 0. So that's something that we have had to stress over and over again, especially number 4 seems to be a difficult one in lessons learned, that if you don't put anything in that, you can get a 0, and that can really affect. I will tell you, lessons learned can be that it didn't work, that you would do it differently again next year. And I think that's okay to talk about. Not every program is perfect from start to finish. There are some things that, gosh, we wish we had started earlier, or we didn't sign X when we should have, or budget properly, whatever it might be. I think those are okay to share. We're not saying everything has to be perfect, but that does help other people when they're thinking of maybe doing a program similar to what you're highlighting, is what are the things that caught you up that you would do differently in the next years.
all right. And if you haven't seen the application before, here's a little snapshot on what it looks like. Very similar to years past. I think we just made a couple of just small changes, but it's very similar. And very easy to fill out. So just, you've got kind of this cover page where you put in your information, choose the category you're submitting on, and then you just fill out 1 through 4 on the document and PDF it. But yeah, there are some helpful questions under each category too, to get you kind of thinking about what we're wanting to see there on each of those categories.
And I will add, you can use this application form. So literally it's a Word document, and under number 1, you can type in all your information. You can make a separate application with this cover page, with this first page here, but it still needs to be highlighted and identified through these 4 criteria. So that way the judges can judge it appropriately. It can be a Word document, or it could be a PDF. It could be either. So it just needs to make sure it follows 1 through 4, and which is those criteria that the judges are looking at. Any questions about the outstanding? The other thing I will also indicate is that if you're going to submit in multiple categories, is to submit them all separately. Don't put them all in one PDF that I then have to separate out. Submit them as 4 different categories and that title, so that way it's easier for us to then distribute them to the appropriate judges. And again, Word or PDF. Yeah, I see a question, Rose.
Yes, thank you, Jennifer. Maybe I missed it, but is there a due date for this outstanding award application?
Yeah, it's May 2nd. We're getting to that in the link here towards the end, but yes, it's May 2nd. And for everybody who's participates a month earlier, it's usually due at the end of May. But with forum being a month earlier, everything has been moved up, but it is May 2nd that everything is due. They don't have to come in all at the same time, Rose. So if you have, one of the recommendations we'll talk about here from the judges is having multiple people work on this. Maybe who's working on your seal is not who's working on your outstanding application. So they can come in sporadically. They don't have to be submitted all at the same time, just by the 2nd. And again, to make sure that that seal is done if you're doing the outstanding awards. Good question.
And so for clarification, I'm sorry, Jennifer, because I saw that in one of the other slides. When you say when the seal is done, that means when the seal application has been submitted?
It doesn't necessarily have to be submitted first. If you did an outstanding award and whoever's working on that submitted it 2 weeks prior, that
Okay.
doesn't matter. It's just that the seal has to be done. It has to be completed for you to be eligible for outstanding. Whatever
Understood.
date it comes in, as long as they're here by the 2nd, I don't care the order. I will just do checking and balances, or I may say after I got an outstanding application, don't forget your seal, that needs to come in too, but one does not have to come in before the other. Sorry if we misspoke with that.
No problem. Thank you, Jennifer.
Good question, though. Okay, so let me look here. We have a question from Nicole. So she asked about how do you find out what percentage of your membership attends in-person forum? So what's going to happen with that, Nicole, is that's going to be that Excel spreadsheet that you can ask for me that I will pull. I'm actually going to go back to that slide if that's okay with everybody. I want to just, here you see on this slide, these are all of the things and data that I will pull. So what you'll do is let's talk about for forum attendance. There'll be a tab for virtual and in-person. I'll put that in an Excel spreadsheet by state, and then you can verify that. Look for your state, how many of those are members, and then you'll be able to figure out your percentage that attends. Again, some of these are actual just outright numbered answers versus a percentage. Does that answer your question, Nicole?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Okay, so let's get to this next part, and this is going to be Amber and Alyssa. This is as judges, they are from all of our ambassadors, and some of our member council do the judging. I will tell you all, I feel very strongly about conflicts of interest. You will not have an ambassador from your area judging your application. We want you to use the ambassadors to get feedback on your seal or outstanding award. So Rose, you can go to Lori Newton in area 2 and say, hey, does this look right? What am I missing? Because she will never be the one judging or scoring that. It's very important to me that we separate that. But I also want you to take advantage and use your ambassadors. They're going to be looking at these. They know what we're looking for. They also will help you with those seals. Sit down and do it step by step. So please take advantage of that, but know that's how we do and who does the scoring on these. So Amber, I'll let you start first with some tips from our judges when looking at applications for the seals. I mean, for the outstanding awards.
Absolutely. So, okay, so like Alyssa said, think of this like an RFP. So, I mean, all of us look at RFP submissions all day. Think about those sorts of things in your brain when you're responding to these. What do we always tell our vendors, right? Read everything, read the instructions. So, so we're going to say the same for this. So make sure that you're reading the instructions. Like Jen said, please respond to each of the 4 sections. If there's no response, we have to give that a 0, right? For the points award for that section. And then again, think about what you want from your vendors. You want them to not be repetitive. You want them to be concise, and you want them to answer the question, give enough context for the evaluation committee to be able to score it. And then, everybody can move on with their lives, right? And then make sure that you proofread, right? Again, what do we tell our vendors? So make sure that you have, multiple sets of eyes on this if you can, or a loved one or something like, hey, can you just proofread this real quick before you submit it? Because, that can kind of get in the way when somebody is reading your response. And then, don't rely solely on, pictures or links, right? Really, really talk through the program that you're trying to highlight and make sure that you're concisely using your words to do that.
And I will say, more is more here. You may think, oh, they don't need to know that detail. Oh, I'm telling them too much. Actually, you do want all of that. I would say throw in the entire kitchen sink and an explanation. And let's say it's 6 pages, then narrow it down. What you don't want to do is pick and choose and parcel little pieces, because it's actually all that little content that really gets you that higher scoring is giving all of those details, that stats, the exact number of revenue of students that you had. Those are the kind of things that really beef up your application, is giving those details. So we want more is more in this application. Alyssa?
All right. So on the outstanding awards, again, just focus on 1 or 2 efforts at the most for your application. I know I already kind of said that, but just think about what really rose to the top for you, and just focus on that. Make sure, again, that you give a lot of detail on that outstanding award application, and again, really make sure that you're giving other chapters enough information so that they can replicate it. I almost try to, like, if I'm helping fill one out, I'm trying to think of it from that view, like, okay, if I was trying to do this myself, like, how would it sound? What do I share? So think of it from that view. Make sure and include and quantify the outcome of the program. So share the results. Jen already kind of said this, but share data. That is so helpful. Give us some really like tangible information on the results. Like, oh, we had this amazing event and we had 85 attendees and it was this great percentage in attendance of our events for the year. I don't know, something like that. Just some concrete numbers. That's really helpful. Don't send us on a search and find mission as judges. I know we keep talking about RFPs, but RFPs always get scored lower when evaluators can't find what they're looking for. We don't want to have to go dig for these answers. So try to just lay it out in the format that we've given you and just explain it. We've tried to make it very simple. So it really shouldn't be that search and find mission to find the information. And then again, if you don't succeed, if you don't get the award one year, that's okay. Don't worry about it. Both types of the awards, whether it's the SEAL, the Outstanding Award, they're all really amazing to help with your chapter's strategic planning. I know we use it as a way to improve each and every year. So just for example, my chapter a few years ago, we used to be really small. We didn't even have a budget ever. And now that was one of the things on the SEAL application. Do you have a budget? And now that's something we can put yes on and get points for. So it's really cool to see, I think, what one year you have no's on, and then the next year it helps you think of things that you could implement. These are all best practices for all of our chapters. So yeah.
So, Alyssa, I'm going to ask you, and anybody who's maybe filled out an outstanding award before, Jenny asked about how many hours you think it usually takes.
I'm trying to think. Yeah, and Robin, it was usually a team effort with me and Robin. I see Robin here. It's a lot quicker now, honestly, but I guess it just all depends on who all you need to get information from. Sometimes that's our challenge, is trying to get the information from somebody that it's really close to their heart and they've got all the details. So I don't know. Trudy, I see you've raised your hand. Do you have information on how long it's taken you?
Yeah, so I will say it took us a while because we had multiple people working on it, but it was gathering all the information. And as you guys stated, we put everything in there to begin with. So numbers, what we did, summaries, lots of words, pictures. And then we went through and we pared it down. Okay. Then we had other people look at it to say what needs to be included. So we did multiple reviews and then getting it down to a point where, okay, we're at, 4 pages. Let's now have everybody look at it. So 2 or 3 people started it, gathered information, 4 people, and then final review. So, and I'm not saying it took, oh my gosh, it took tons of time, but it does take, if you have a spot where you can put like a Google Doc or a SharePoint that people can collaborate and throw everything in there to begin with, then you can start making comments. Well, okay, do we need this? Oh, let's add onto this. Let's add this point. And so it's kind of like, that breakout session, that brainstorming, that everything gets there. And then, as you guys stated, whittle it down to, hey, these are the key points that got us to that successful event thing, whatever it is you submitted for.
And Trudy, what I like what you said too, is that this is neither one of these applications should be a one-man show. I know sometimes you may have a lead. I know some chapters, the past president, this is their role. But we feel as the ambassadors and as me looking at these, it really should be a group effort. To Alyssa's point, if it's a program that your program's chair puts together, they're going to know all of those details. The past president may not know all the ins and outs. So really putting a team together to take different sections that are appropriate for people to proof it. So to have multiple hands in it, I think does allow it to take more time, but I think it comes out better in the end than just one person being responsible for collecting, writing, proofing, and doing it all.
Yeah, and I'm just gonna add on to that, start now. So start a Google Doc, start a notebook, and start talking about it now. Go to your next board meeting and say, here's our ideas. Okay, then do that. So start now to do that research, look back what you did. Here's the calendar of events. What do we want to do anything? So you can, instead of waiting until April 15th and you're like, oh, we got to submit it. And then it's not as information as you really are like, oh, we could have put so much more, if you start now. That's my recommendation.
Thanks, Trudy. Is there anybody else on the line that's done one, either the seal or outstanding, that has any tips or tricks that their chapter does in putting them together or working on them?
Oh, this is Kaliska with OPPA. One of the best tips I think I got before I was president was to actually get a physical planner, like a paper planner, and write down every single time something like a milestone happens or something good happens, or you had a good meeting, or you had a fresh idea, something like to really just write it down, because when you get to the chapter award application and you're looking for it, looking at it, you're just going to be like, oh, I did so much, what do I do? And so that looking back on the planner really has helped me in the past.
I love that. That's long-term planning for the year in advance. And I think it's also just good to do as milestones as a chapter. Think about that is do you do a year-end report that, what did we do for our membership in 2024? I think that's a great summary for your membership to say that this is what you got for your dues this year. These are all the things that were produced or happened within the chapter. So I think it's good for both purposes to do that. Anybody else have any other input or ideas of putting either one of these together? I will also highlight what Alyssa said about that seal, and that this is a great way for your chapter. You fill that out for the second or third time and find, we're lacking in an area. We haven't really thought about doing a program on this. It really does allow you for strategic planning and long-term planning to look at what you could be planning on the next couple of years. All right, so let's just talk real quick here about resources. We do have posted last year's award winners. I think it is great for you to go and look at those. See how others have submitted. I will tell you that they all scored extremely high and well. Our winners did. So those are good examples of what we're looking for in that application. You can schedule one-on-ones. You can do this of two ways. You can schedule one-on-ones because you've submitted one and you want somebody to review it or to look at it or ask questions. I can be a resource as well. I don't do any judging. I look at them to see that it's intact and complete. So I can be a resource. If you submitted last year outstanding awards or the seal, to Tony's point, you want to look at it, or you want to feel, how can I score better to be an outsider? I was a finalist, but I want to be a winner. Where are the areas that I need to improve on my submission? All of the judges are required to write notes of why they scored, how they did. So then I can offer you that feedback to tell you, this is, you didn't put enough of that data, or they really wish they had seen X, or you really left this category empty. So that way, how to produce the best of the best for your submissions. They are due May 2nd. There are 3 different documents on the awards page. The first is going to be criterion guidelines for both the Outstanding Award and the seal. The seal application itself, it is an Excel document, and then the Outstanding Award application, which is in a Word document. That is all that we have. Does anybody have any questions? Anything that we missed? Any parting thoughts, Alyssa or Amber?
I guess I would just say if you're hesitating, just go for it. Just submit it. It's not going to take you long, and don't ever think like, oh, we won't win the Outstanding Award. You just never know. You don't know who you're going up against. It might seem like a small thing to you, but it might rise to the top. So you never know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, ditto to what Alyssa said, and if you're sitting there thinking, well, my chapter, isn't doing anything, new or different from any other chapter. Well, what if it's new to you in your chapter, make sure that you're highlighting that. I can't stress that enough. So if this is the first time that you're putting on a conference, if this is the first reverse trade show, right? Anything like that, that's new to your chapter, you can submit an award for. And you never, like Alyssa said, you never know.
Or that event that you've done every year, but it was so successful. You made an incredible amount of money on a reverse trade show and were able to give scholarship backs, or did your first or maybe an improved board orientation. On those applications, we do give examples in each of those criteria for Outstanding Awards of what type of things to submit in those categories. But please don't ever hesitate to reach out to myself or to any of your ambassadors with questions, to review, look at it. What do you think? What am I missing? That's what we're here for. And we're here again to support each other. So those Outstanding Awards are to show those best practices to other chapters, and to highlight your program. So we certainly want to make sure that we're getting those to everybody. That's all we had today, guys. We did record it. I will post on our resource guide under chapter webinars rather, this recording and slide deck, so you can go back to it. But if you have any questions, just let us know, or you want a copy of last year's or want to set up some of those one-on-ones, just let me know. Thank you guys for your time today. Appreciate it. Thank you, Amber and Alyssa.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Guys,
And
Thank
hope
you.
to see everybody in
Thank
Chicago.
you.
see you in Chicago if you're
See you
coming.
in Chicago.
Yep, see you in Chicago.
Pack warm.
Yes.
Did you get a coat, Jen?